assistive technology and the responsible use of AI in education. And he also delivers CPD workshops for educators and career professionals with a focus on practical, ethical, and accessible approaches to AI that support both professionals and learners. So, yeah, without further ado, I think, David, you can take over. Welcome, and thank you for joining us today. Yeah.
Hello, Nusra. Hello, community out there. Nice to see so many faces, or at least see so many cameras. Yeah, thank you for the introduction. My name's David Curran. Yes, indeed, I did the keynote. I'm going to dip in and out of a PowerPoint today, and then what we can do is, if it's okay, Nusra, if I send it through in PDF form, and then all the links and that, we can sort of distribute it out if people want hold of it, and then it's got all the links.
Yeah, that would be great.
So if people want to take notes, by all means do so. If you've got questions, put them in the chat. And like I say, if I don't get to them there and then, we'll be sort of about 20 minutes, half an hour to show everything. And then I'm going to show you some Microsoft Learn guided units to go and look at yourself. But I'll stick around. So if you've got questions, then I'll do so. Even if you want to be going through sort of the guided learning units and you've got some questions. So I'll stick around till, well, we're till 6 o'clock here. So this is my end of my working day. I'm 5 till 6. Okay. Right. Let's go into a bit of a share. And I'll kind of, like I say, I'll dip in and out. I'll try not to disappear totally behind a PowerPoint for the whole day. So yeah, my name's David Curran. I'm teaching now at Moonhall School, Reigate. I've got a little caption on here. I'm going to let somebody else do the lobby if that's okay. So I'm just going to close that and let somebody else let them in. Oh, well, there we go. So yeah, I'm just going to start off with a simple little accessibility cartoon here. So yeah, the guy in the wheelchair here, and you can see the snow, is just asking, can you please shovel the ramp? And the caretaker of the school, very nicely, very politely saying, all these other kids are waiting to use the stairs. When I get through shoveling them off, then I'll clear the ramp for you. Obviously, sort of, looking at the masses, but as the person in the wheelchair says there, but if you shovel the ramp, we can all get in. And this is kind of my approach to education. Now, I spent sort of 18 years in state education, teaching 32, 34 students in a classroom. I'm now very fortunate. I teach at Moonhall. We are a specialist dyslexic school. So our students are aged, let's work this one out, from age 7 until 16 when they leave school and then they move on to colleges. All our students are dyslexic. Many of them have got additional neurodivergent needs. And yes, so our class sizes are now sort of 8, 10, 12 in a class. So I kind of appreciate the larger classes where I used to sort of, where we'd have 32, 34 students in a class, and we'd be booking sort of computer rooms and trying to take sort of 32 students into a classroom with maybe 30 computers. So I kind of appreciate where we're at now is a lot different. All our students have got access to personal devices. So we've all got laptops. And we've got assistive technology on the timetable. So our head teacher, who's chair of the board of the British Dyslexia Association, 5 years ago, created this new role called Assistive Technology Lead, which is my current role. I'm also head of careers here. So the two kind of overlap very nicely. And we build the assistive technology program, we build our AI program, and we build our futures program within the timetable. And like I say, all our students have got access, got devices. So I feel sort of very fortunate position, but I kind of have to sort of remember we've not all got sort of access to devices. So I'm going to give everybody kind of a little bit of an overview, and hopefully everybody tonight today will take away some sort of little sort of glimpses or little snatches that work for them and we can use in the classroom, we can use with our learners. If I'm just moving on, I can see, yeah, okay, so if you join me for the keynote from adoption to leadership, I was in the lovely Isle of Skye with the in the background. I've been back, we're now sort of deep into coursework handing in and exam season. So I'm kind of in Reigate, just south of London here, but it doesn't really matter where we are. Okay, accessibility, inclusion are the test I've written here. Doesn't really matter where we are, the same rules, same principles apply. Yeah, good AI use should reduce the barriers, it should support clarity, and it should widen participation. The whole idea is to build an inclusive classroom, whether that's sort of within a small community and people sort of there that you can see, or online as such, and more teachings going that way as well. I've got here, keep our young people at the heart of what we do. So it's kind of this understanding. So it's not just kind of having a system. It's not a case of sort of putting a device in front of one of the young people, or even for us to help us with our work itself. Okay, but if we keep our young people at the heart of what we do, we create a community, we create an environment so that people can study and that can learn. I've just got somebody on. I'm just picking up somebody's background. If you can just make sure you're on mute, please. If that's okay. Thank you. Lovely. Right, so what this session will cover, I'm going to dip out of this, and there's a reason why I'm going to dip out of this. Whenever I'm delivering a PowerPoint or presentation, one of the first things we should be doing is reviewing. So before I sort of deliver this, I should be going into my review up here. And these are all free features with Microsoft and with my Microsoft 365. There's a check accessibility feature here. Now, if I just click this check accessibility feature, what it's going to do is it's going to go through my slide deck, and it's going to look at things that people might have issues with accessing the information that's on there. So here you can see I've got hard to read contrast. And if I click on this one, okay, and it selects this little box here. So what it's saying here is maybe people that have maybe got visual stress or visual impairment might struggle actually sort of reading or getting that information off the board because of the white text. So if I look here again, and it's even suggesting me some different kind of fonts and text, let's go for a darker gray, and then hopefully that kind of stands a little bit more off the page. Also, I've got things like alt text. So if I just go back a section, so again, people with visual impairments, if I go into my review and I go into my alt text here, can go through and they can actually sort of understand what the image is there, and this is called alternative text. So I'm hoping that, again, just these small little sort of hints mean that our information that we're trying to get over to our young learners is more accessible for all. So again, that little review, let's just have a quick look. Check accessibility, and hopefully I've gone through there. It tells me whether or not, so for example, I've got a few slides where I duplicate the header. So if somebody's trying to navigate through this, that might cause some confusion. I've got some checking reading order as well. When I assemble my slide deck, again, if I'm going through, then it might be sort of the order which I've created. If I'm using sort of text to speech, which we'll show you in a few minutes, it might be sort of jumping around on the order of the page and be confusing to somebody. So just make sure we're going through and just checking our accessibility features on there. The second one, and you saw it before as I was dictating there, or as I was speaking there, I always make sure I'm using my subtitles. Now I've just got that little box checked up here, and again, if I wish to, then I can drop in. I can change my subtitles. So for example, I was working with a school that had quite a few Ukrainians in, so I can then drop that down. I can put it into Ukrainian, I think, if we go to the bottom. So while I'm speaking English, I'm in my classroom and I've got my slide deck behind me, then the subtitles that are appearing on the board just below are actually translated live into Ukrainian. Again, so that might just help with a little bit of accessibility. Now I'm going to uncheck this for the reason that we're in Teams. And again, this might kind of take us to another level. If I come back in now, I'm in my little three dots here, I've got my audio settings, but I've also got my speech and language. So if I, for example, here, show my live captions, I turn my live captions on, and you should see these captions coming down underneath. Now, if I go into my settings, again, I can change my language settings, and I can change the actual language that I'm reading them in. So if you're struggling with my accent here, and you want to sort of listen to what I'm saying, but you'd like the captions in whichever language is your sort of your preferred language, then by all means, I'll turn the captions on. You should be able to do that. Three dots, turn the captions on, and then you should be able to change the settings. If not, stick around till the end. Let's say we can go through and we can answer Q&As. So hopefully that's what I'm saying. Kind of hopefully everyone has a little bit of a snippet of something to take away today. So I'll leave the captions on at the bottom if you wish. Okay, I'll leave your captions on. I'm going to leave them on there. what I'm going to do is, if I go back into, in fact, I'll turn them off here, and then I'm going to go back. I'm going to turn them back on my PowerPoint while I'm delivering my PowerPoint. So yes, let's go back in. Let's have a quick look at what we're doing today. So we're going to look at some accessibility features on our devices. We're going to look at text-to-speech and speech-to-text, some low cognitive load tools. Quite often when students are sort of trying to access the information, it's not necessarily the information, it's the actual how to process that information. Might be cognitive overload. It might be that we're dealing with students who just see a block of text and it's an immediate barrier, whether that's sort of an accessing barrier, or it might be kind of a conditioning barrier. It might be that students had negative experiences of education and doesn't kind of like to see that block of text and just won't attempt it. So assistive technology is all about assisting and helping and guiding. It's never kind of forcing and kind of making sure that a young person has to do things in a particular way. It's about kind of showing them what's there, what's available, and then letting our students develop, our young people develop their way of learning, their way of using the tech. And then at the end, like I say, some Microsoft Learn signposting, which was spoken with Nusrat. I've kind of gone into Microsoft Learn and I've picked out some little units and I've picked out some further reading as well that are linked to today's topic, which is accessibility. I've got down at the bottom here, AT, so assistive tech plus any AI plus human in the building is amazing opportunities for all learners, and it's creating that environment, creating that learning environment for people to succeed. Again, like I say, I'll make sure we distribute this slide deck out and I'll send it as a PDF, but it's got all the links, it's got the QR codes. So if you're sitting there with a device and you've got your phone by hand and you want to kind of flick around, by all means, you may do so. And like I say, I've got QR codes in here as well, so you can do that kind of live while I'm talking. I'm just going to look at some basic accessibility functions. Now, I'm sitting here on a Windows device. The school, we use Microsoft 365. We're dipping into Google as well for Gemini and for Notebook LM, if you're aware of those. But basically we use Teams, for example, in order to be able to distribute information to our students. I'm going to look at accessibility on a Windows device and using Microsoft 365 today. But again, I've kind of put some information. So if you've got those iPads in there, or if you've got an Android phone at home or sort of sitting there, then the accessibility features are in there, Google in there as well. I've kind of put links so we can go away and we can learn in our own time. I'm just going to kind of dip out and hopefully we can still see our screen. That's it. So if I just go into accessibility settings, this is on my device. What did I click? Oh, sorry, I went into keyboard because I was doing this before with the student. So these are our accessibility features. Now, my daughter laughs. I've got my iPhone. I'm not promoting iPhone over another one. It just kind of, it's the device that I find sort of convenient. I've had one for a few years and then we kind of transfer over. But yeah, when I'm kind of reading the messages that she sends through, I've got two options. I can either, well, I've got three options. I can put my assistive technology on. I can put my glasses on, or I can increase the size of the text on the screen. Or the final one is I can put my phone on the other side of the room. Generally, I can read it when it's on the other side of the room, but underneath my nose, I kind of struggle with. So again, I can go into my accessibility features on my phone or on my device, and just a simple thing such as increasing the size of the lettering might really sort of help not just our young learners, but like I say, I use these features as well for myself. Okay, and again, I can click apply, and then that size setting will stay, and that will be in all my various software that I'm going to be using, as well as text size in here. I'm just going to come out. I've got some visual effects. We have a quick look in here. Again, if I want to go into my display or my animation, let's just have a see what we were looking at before. Yeah, one of our students, well, in fact, one of our parents of our students got in touch. Their student had used their device at home, and then they'd come back to it, and it had one of those massive mouse, and they wanted to know how to decrease the size. So again, if I just slide the mouse and I end up increasing the size of the mouse, let's just move this one back. And again, if you've seen it and it's helpful, absolutely great. These are quite helpful when we're doing presentations, for example, if you've got large displays or you've got large settings and you want people at the back to be able to see it, just by increasing the size of the mouse, just means that people can navigate a large screen from further back from a distance. Again, I can put different contrasts and the like as well. Let's just slide this one back in. What else are we looking at today? We've got magnifier, we've got color filters. So one of our students here struggles with differentiating different colours, so they won't be able to differentiate between these colours here. What we have found, if he clicks on the little colour filters and goes to grayscale, is he can differentiate those different colours beautifully. So again, sort of like say with the optical stress or visual impairments, I'm just playing around with something as simple as this, and all of a sudden, like I say, one of our students has it in this mode. A lot of our students at the moment are kind of playing around with this inverted mode. They're like sort of the darker back screen, and again, it just gets rid of some of that bright, that white that might be causing visual stress or stress on the eyes. So yeah, kind of like I say, just have a play around, find out what works for you. I would say if you've got personal devices, this can be really, really handy. And then what happens is next time the student uses that device, then those settings remain. If we're using shared devices and we're allowing students to do this, because quite often schools will switch this option off so that they don't get into problems with one student putting their settings in a particular way and then the next student coming and sort of struggling with that. So it probably a case of, you know, just make sure if we've got this enabled within our school, make sure every student's aware to do this. So a student will just pick that up and they'll just move the settings to whatever's best for them, rather than have that kind of issue of you personally having to then go and reset the defaults. What else with accessibility? We've got an narrator on there, so I can kind of move my cursor over and it will read the words as I move around the screen. Captions we mentioned before. I've just been listening to somebody talking about eye control, so we can put an eye track and we can connect that to the device as well. Maybe that's further down the line, but hopefully a little bit of accessibility features in there, and it might be just something as simple as like the student being able to access the information. Once they access that information, then the learning might go in that little bit deeper. We've got some information here about dyslexia friendly fonts. Lots of kind of arguments, lots of research and sort of for and against various fonts. This is one called Open Dyslexic, and I've put a download to this if you wish to sort of down or upload it to your device. Again, the British Dyslexia Association, which is what we sort of go by in our school, they basically just talk about sans serif fonts. So there's Times New Romans, where it's got the little sort of serifs, the little lines, the little dots on the end of the text, can be quite confusing, where letters or words kind of blend or merge into each other. So using sans serif fonts such as Arial or Comic Sans, I'd say Verdana is quite a nice one as well. Making sure font size. Yeah, so when we're creating documents, 12 to 14 points, yeah, or equivalent if you've got it in sort of inches or in px. Some dyslexic readers might request a larger font, and again, that's quite, I will show you that, but that's quite easy to do. What we quite often, what I think I've found myself guilty as a teacher over the years, is when you create that document and there's just maybe 3 or 4 words at the bottom and you kind of shrink the text in order to be able to fix. If I went back and sort of relived those moments, what I'd probably be doing it is kind of making it bigger and duplicating it so they've got 2 sides. Or well, even now we've sort of been digital and uploading as well. So think about the size of the text as well. Make it comfortable. We're talking about that environment for people to feel comfortable in. When Nusra and I first started having this conversation, we were talking about AI and the use of AI. And if you're sitting there thinking, well, what's all this got to do with AI? This is kind of, well, here's my question. So how long has AI been around? I'd normally get you in the chat to do it, but I'm just going to kind of move on because we want to get some practical and then give you guys some practical times at the end. So yeah, the Dartmouth Conference in 1956, so post-Second World War and decoding. It was kind of, the concept was to come up with this kind of machine in order to be able to decipher or map shapes to sounds and sounds to shapes. And this is what text-to-speech is, or speech-to-text. So if I put my hands in a particular order or a particular shape, then somebody can look at that and recognize that I'm actually, you know, this is a sound. You know, yeah, even though I'm seeing a shape, in my head, I'm creating a sound that resembles that. So yeah, and lots of things have changed, and in the last few years, sort of ChatGPT and on November 22, what we consider to be AI, generative AI, has really sort of blown or exploded. But yeah, we can map sort of text to speech and speech to text right back to the advent, to the birth of AI. And you can see here anything that I create with AI. This was made with Gamal. Maybe we'll look at that in the future weeks. And I always make sure be open with your learners. Make sure if you're using AI, let them know where you're using it, where it's acceptable for use. Right, let's dip into some practical stuff. Yeah, so I'm going to take a document. So I'm going to come out of this and I'm going and go into a simple Word document. Lots and lots of little things here. Again, just by moving a simple slider means we can zoom in and zoom out. When we're zoomed in, I mentioned before, so we've selected our text. This font is 14. Don't make it smaller than 12 if we're going to print this text out, because it can make things difficult. But again, we can increase size here as well. I mentioned before about so if I make this Times New Roman, some of you might be looking at that and you'll see the letters start to blend into each other. And these are the serif text where they've got these little lines that zoom right in. You can see the little lines on the end of the and one letter starts to merge into the other, and it can be quite confusing for some of our young learners. So yeah, let's just go back to, let's Control Z. Let's get back to where we were on our screen. Okay. Right, text to speech, speech to text. So I've got some text, and which way should we go around? Which way should we go around? Which is the best way of doing this? Let's start with the obvious thing. So Bill Gates, okay, Microsoft, is dyslexic. So there's lots of accessibility features built in here. And if you're not aware of these, then once you've seen these, you'll be like, how did I not see that in the first place? There on the homepage, slap bang in front of me, is Dictate. So if I just click on Dictate, what's going to happen is what I'm going to say is then going to appear on the screen. Now, for a young person that's particularly, like, say, might have negative experiences of education, and they've got sort of so much information in their head and they can't get that information down, not necessarily because they can't think about it, but whilst they're trying to process how to get that information out of their head and onto a written page, whether that's a digital page or handwritten, that the process, the cognitive load that's used is then some of the remembering the actual sort of information gets lost in order to be able to process that information. Now, I'm not sort of big on the science and things, and I'm learning that bit as I'm going along, and studying hard in order to be able to sort of be more empathetic towards our students. But what I can see is if we've kind of reduced that cognitive load, students can then sort of get information down and also retain and take information in a lot easier, and it seems to go in a lot deeper. If I just click, let's just give this a go. Testing, 1, 2, 3, 4. Full stop, new line, smiley face. Okay, and then what happens is the student gets really excited because all the stuff in their head, they've been able to get this down, and then there's all kind of clicks and there's all sorts of what's it's, and yeah, okay, and then I've got a whole load of information on there I don't need. So what we try and do when we've got students in the classroom is they've got headsets on and attach their headsets on microphones. Now the microphones they can then cup. Now being able to cup means it reduces the noise that's coming from around them. So in quite a small room, we can get sort of 12, or I had 14 students all dictating at the same time. In a relatively small room, they're all sort of sitting next to each other in like a horseshoe shape, and they were all able to dictate at the same time just by having those personal headsets with the microphone and being able to cup. It kind of echoes and increases the volume of their voice. Trying to get students using that, again, it's not just a case of putting the tech in front of them. I've got quite a strong accent. We've got others that have got even stronger accents, and sometimes it struggles with some of the words. Quite often it'll pick up if I'm, dictating, and it might think I'm Welsh and start creating some. So it's about making sure I just kind of slow down, sort of increase the length of time I'm taking, be more sort of, make sure I'm pronouncing my letters, make sure I'm it's practice, it's play. One of the games that we play with our students is get them to talk like a robot, and strangely enough, it all comes up quite nicely. So yeah, that's Dictate. And again, you'll see this in a lot of places. If I just dive onto the internet here, so for example, we use Microsoft Edge here rather than Chrome because of the accessibility features. But if I just jump into Bing, again, there's my little microphone. Wikipedia, Earth. Right, now I've gone into a bit of a panic there. I'm just going to come back in and see if I can find Nusra. Nusra, were you able to hear as it spoke through the page there?
No, I couldn't hear that. So
Right, okay. So I think if I stop sharing, my problem is when I start to share and I share with sound, then what might happen is you lose my voice then. It's sometimes kind of one or the other. Right, if I just go into screen, we might have to play around with this, folks, I'm afraid. If I just go into there, let's come back. Stop share. Let's go into share. Let's go into include sound. Right, so Nusra, if I just click on this, can you give me a thumbs up if you can still hear my voice?
okay.
So let me just get back. So I'm still speaking. You able to hear me?
Yeah, we can hear
Yeah, you
you.
can still hear my voice. Yeah. Right. What I'm going to do is I'm going to go. I'll carry on with this, and then I'll show you text to speech, and then I'll dip back in, and you can give me a thumbs up or a thumbs down if you can hear as well. But if you can hear me, then we'll carry on with this screen. Is that okay? Yep, lovely. Okay. So I was on my little web page. I've set my little narration, so it kind of narrated the first little part here. Now I can click on my website because I know that this is the website. Yeah. Once I'm in here, I'm missing my little my little microphone there as well. So on my keyboard, I've got a Microsoft keyboard, so I've got Windows and H. So if I press Windows and H, pressing my little box, and again, let's click to go. It's listening and it should be sort of picking up. And now I can continue. So this is really helpful for our students. For example, our year 11s have used it when they're looking for application forms. Our students do little scratch programming where they've got to dictate onto a platform. So Windows and H on your keyboard, hello, Windows and hello. Really, really helpful. Okay. That's speech to text. The flip of that is then your text to speech. So we find that generally students don't dictate kind of longer passages. We've got some experts that will dictate everything. Generally they'll kind of flick it on and they'll say one word here, one word there. Our younger students absolutely love it, fall in love with it, and they get excited, and then they get to use it, and then sort of a year or two later they'll kind of master it, and then they get a little bit sort of more self-conscious of themselves and kind of speaking out loud. So again, it's making sure that they've got an environment where they feel safe to be able to talk. They don't feel that people are listening in or going to come up with some smart aleck comment. So it's creating that environment. Okay, right. The flip of speech to text is text to speech. So I've got a whole heap of text here. I've got this gobbledygook down the bottom as well. In review, I've got this, well, there we go. There's our check accessibility feature for our Word documents. I've got this one read aloud, but under view, I've got this thing called immersive reader. Now, if you look at the screen, I'm going to click it and it's going to slightly change. So if you're looking at the screen, okay, and what it's done is, it's kind of, this is my setting. This is how I set this up last time, so it's just remembered it. So for example, the column width, I've made it quite narrow, so there's kind of space on either side, which means that some students like it because they don't get sort of distracted with what's going on the side. Others, they want all the information on the screen, so I can scroll up and down. Page color, my daughter's dyslexic, and again, has those color overlays. So this can be quite handy. I can put different sort of color overlays on there as well. And again, it just reduces that brightness for the people with visual stress. I've got line focus. So when I was at school, when you read on your book, you had a card and you kind of moved the card down in order to be able to see where you were on the book. Similar here, digital. Again, I can put one line on here and I can then move up and down. So as students are reading, they can kind of follow, and I can move up and I can move down. That was at the end of the text there. Okay, in order to be able to read passages. And again, 3 lines so the student can see the words before and the words coming. So they're kind of aware of where they are in the text. I'm just going to switch all that off. Text spacing. Again, you can see all I've done is kind of play around with the different text spacing. So between the actual words, it puts those little gaps. And again, allows students to differentiate between the words a lot easier without words blending into each other. If you teach using syllables, This can break it down. So the concept of motion is described by using terms like, so again, can be useful or not useful. Let's switch this off. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to show this. What you'll see is a little colored box going over the top, and then I'm going to dive out of it. Nuzra's going to give me a thumbs up or a thumbs down. While that little colourful box is going along, I'm hoping that it will read out loud to us. So let me just turn my microphone off, and I'm just going to click at the start, and I'm going to go read aloud.
Speed, distance, and time. The concept of motion is described by using terms like velocity.
Right, I'm going to dive out of this. I'm going to go into Teams, and Nuzra's going to give me a thumbs up or thumbs down. She could hear the text being read. Yes, technology. Lovely, 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 lovely. Thank you, Nuzra. Right, let's get back in. So this is text to speech where it reads out loud. And again, if I kind of go in, I've not got many settings. You can go into the settings of your actual laptop. If you're, if whichever language is in, it's going to read in that language. So again, limited settings in here. I can play, I can pause.
Speed, distance, and acceleration. For a moving body, speed is the...
Okay, I can move on sentences.
Higher speed
and it'll jump sentences so I can listen to a sentence
Testing 1234. Smiley face. Okay, and then what happens is student gets really excited.
So again, this is what we're saying. Before students hand work in, they've been dictating. We always get them to proofread, to listen to their actual information before they hand that work in. And then they can go back and they can edit this. So let's go back. I can edit that. All right. Right. This is an immersive reader. So some students like it because they can play around with it. Some students hate it because it doesn't look like the document they've been given, and that's kind of another process. So what you can do, again, so for example, if I just wish to select a bit, and then I can, in my review, go to read aloud.
Speed, distance, and time.
And all it's done is then it's read the part that I've been selected. Yeah, or I can click at the beginning, press read aloud, and it'll just continue to read. I can play around my little settings up here. Yeah, that's text to speech. Once you've seen it, it's kind of everywhere. And like I say, if you've not seen it before, you'd be like, how have I not seen this before? So let's go back onto, I mentioned being on Bing. The reason why we're on Bing is if I select my text or my student selects their text, if they then right click on this and go into more tools, there's a read aloud selection.
Earth is the third planet from the Sun and the only astronomical object known to harbor life. This is made possible.
And again, what I like about this is it kind of highlights the word. So I mentioned about my daughter being dyslexic. So it's not, she can read, she can write, it's her processing speed. So she'll read and you won't sort of understand that there's any issues there. But then if you ask her about sort of the text that she's been reading, as she's reading, she's sort of she's concentrating so much on actually forming the letters and reading out the words that she's not really taking the information on board. And this is called bimodal reading. So as she's seeing it, she's hearing it at the same time. And it just seems to go in that little bit deeper and allows her to be able to process that information. So really, really helpful. So yeah, that's text to speech. That's speech to text. I mentioned about Google as well. So Google's got the little search by voice thing there as well, which is quite nice. And again, when you go in there, but again, everything gets updated. I'm going to go in there and find out it's still there. We've been using for quite a few years, I say, Microsoft, and we've been using Edge, and we just find that the features work for our students. If I go back in, this is what I'm going to send out. So we'll just go through. So text to speech, speech to text, that's what we've looked at. There's the little dictate feature there. We've got the little Windows H down the bottom. We've got the little microphone here. We've looked at that. That's Windows plus H, and that's what appeared at the bottom of my screen. That's with a Windows device using editor and accessibility. So I showed you in PowerPoint, there's also that check accessibility when we're creating worksheets or digital worksheets, or even kind of messages or emails amongst members of staff. We've got to remember, okay, some of our staff might have issues with this, or just be comfortable. Quite often we're doing a lot of things. When I'm writing my reports, for example, I teach a practical subject. So my students are making in the workshop, and then they've got their designs on pieces of paper. Then they've got the work booklet that they've got. Then they've sort of handed some work into me on the screen. When I'm writing a report about them, what I'll do is I'll open up a Word document in the background. I'll put my headset on and as I'm going through it, I'll actually dictate onto the Word document and then I'll kind of rearrange and play around with it first rather than sort of stopping and starting and writing. It might be, for example, on a Saturday, Saturday evening, and my football team's won again. So what I'll do is I'll go onto a website and while I'm sort of cooking for the family, I'll have the website on in the background and I'll listen to it playing. Yeah, so it's actually speaking out to me. So great features there, great features. This is our website. Again, on websites, you've got the little read aloud. We talked about this. We're on Teams at the moment, so if you're sending Teams, we've got the 3 little dots. There's your immersive reader. Read aloud if you're using your emails. Make sure there's not the wrong people in earshot, and then use your read aloud if you want to listen to your emails. That's my little thing, just to pause and remind me to just take a breath. Like I say, if you've got any questions, please put them in a chat and we'll have some time at the end to go through those. That's a nice little panda.
Thank you, David. It was a wonderful session.
Right,
so,
I've got a little bit more.
If you have any questions,
Nusrat, I've got a few signposts. Do you want me to show those and then share those with people, and then they can give it a go?
Yeah, that would be great. Yeah.
I mentioned about Google, so again, I've put the information on there so you can kind of play around. You'll see sort of a lot of the time on my screen, there's a little blue bar up the top here. We use this for exams. So again, it's got this little blue bar and this sort of dictate features on there. But if you're interested, like I say, we can't use the Microsoft because it's attached to the Wi-Fi or the internet, so we can't use it for exams. We've got exam conditions. If I just come through, what I'll do is I'll copy and paste these in. We'll distribute this anyway. But yeah, I've put a little sort of Microsoft Learn signpost in. So if this is kind of your thing, let's just have a dip in. Let's have a look at where it takes us. I did have to set it up before. There we go. So we've got the inclusive classroom. This is about 3 hours of a unit, Microsoft, okay, and it gives you so many points. And again, building towards your accreditation, your CPD, your personal development, how you're going to call it. So we've got that one there. That's about inclusive classrooms. Accessibility as a whole, we've mentioned some things there, but again, there's a nice little short module that you can work through at your own pace there. If you are interested in Dictate, then the first one I showed you about the inclusive classroom has got all of those features in it. But if you just want to go, right, okay, I'm not interested in the read aloud, I want to do Dictate, then again, there's some more information, and then there's some nice little videos that Microsoft create there. And then same for immersive reader. This is all about immersive reader, and again, there's some training in there if you want to do it. Some nice little videos. We are read aloud. So that's what we're showing with read aloud. Again, that's kind of taking text and then kind of listening to it. There's the read aloud feature. Now you've seen it. It's really, really helpful. You use it all the time. And then next session, I'm going to speak to Nusrat as to when we are. We're going to look at some learning accelerators. So again, Microsoft was setting assignments on Teams. We've got some little reading accelerators. We've got Reading Coach. We've got Reading Progress. We've got some Maths Coach in there as well. Some Presentation Coach. Okay, so we'll arrange a date and we'll get back to you with that. I'll copy and paste these in the chat. I'll stop sharing and then Nusrat do her bit, and then like I say, hopefully we'll have a look, and I'll stick around for the next 20 minutes or so if you've got any questions. Okay. Thank you, folks. Thank you, Nusrat. I'll do some copy and paste.
You can take a break now. It was a great session, great insight. So if you have any questions, you can unmute and you can ask. You are very welcome to unmute, or you can even type in your chat. Yeah, Shazia. Gone?
Hello.
Hello.
My name is Dr. Sumaira. Thank you for such a nice session. It's very informative, although I joined the late. Just I have one question that the feature you told about, that is available in the paid version of Microsoft Office 360, or we can download it as a free and we can use these features. Thank you.
So if you've got, it's one of those strange ones. In England, we've got free educational accounts. So I forget. I do apologize about that. If you've got a Microsoft 365 account, then yes, all of these features are built in. They're immersive features built in. I think I mentioned towards the beginning, so Bill Gates was dyslexic, so there's lots of accessibility features just naturally built into Microsoft products. Is that okay?
Any other questions?
Just putting all the learn bits. So if people want to go away and have a bit of a play, like I say, I'll stick around. So if you've got any questions in 5 minutes, by all means, just jump on. Yeah.
Yeah, somebody's, is this session recorded? Yeah, the session is recorded, and we will send you an email to our skills bot, so you can access all the recordings, previous recordings as well. And if you haven't, heard from us or something happened, you can always email us and ask us about how to, log into your SkillSpot account. So you can contact maybe this email. I will type in the email address. Yeah. And we will also send you along all the documents that David will share with us. So you can have a look at that also. And I'm just curious, as we, in the previous week, we started the Microsoft Elevate Educator, the program we introduced. Anyone was able to log into your account, or you started your journey? Any updates on that? Yes, okay, great. So the sessions, the future sessions are also based on, to give you an idea about how you can improve these application of tools. And also if you are planning to apply for Microsoft Elevate Educator Expert or Explorer, so you will get good insight through our sessions. And always we are happy to answer any questions that you have. And we would like to welcome you to our community. Shahana, you're there? If you can share the details about our community. And, as this is a community session, we would welcome you to speak out. We can get to know each other.
People might be busy learning their next thing. They're on their Microsoft Learn units.
Yeah, maybe.
Or they've gone to make tea and just left the camera on.
Yeah, okay. So, Shahana, are you there? And you will earn a credit badge from Microsoft for the event that you attended today. So we will send you that link as well. Yeah, if you don't have any questions, yeah, we can wrap up. Give me 1 second. I will just check with Shahana about the links. Okay, there is a question, I think. My question is from Abida Hatun. My question is, how can accessibility tools improve students' reading and writing skills, and especially for SEND children?
Right. So yeah, like I say, I kind of got into these tools when I teach, like I say, I teach workshop design technology in England. And every year trying to get sort of 16 and 18-year-old boys to do coursework was very, very difficult. So they have to kind of produce a portfolio of their work. So to try and get them to sort of write, give them a piece of paper and to get them to write down their thoughts, their ideas, to get them to analyze, was always a bit of a chore for me. But what I did find was when it came to ideas, if I gave them a piece of paper, they might draw one or two ideas. If I gave them a load of sort of, cardboard tubes and boxes and bits of paper and sellotape and glue, oh, they'd love it, and they'd make lots and lots of different ideas. Those ideas I can then photograph and I can put them onto a PowerPoint, and then I would book the computer room, and then the students would go in, and rather than writing, they'd then dictate over the top, so they could put on and it's getting that information from their head onto the screen. So I wasn't actually looking at it from a SEND point of view, it was about communicating that information. And maybe I believed it was like a reluctance for students to want to get that information. I kind of look back and I think the obstacle wasn't necessarily the information in the head, but was to get the evidence down on the screen. All our students are now dyslexic and we teach this within the timetable. If we can reduce the cognitive load, students can then concentrate on so for example, if you want to get them to write a story, all their brain power is then used in creating the story, because they know that they can get that information down, they can dictate it, they can type it, whatever they're most comfortable in doing. And some of our students still handwrite as well. I mean, we're never, like I mentioned before, we're never going to force it, but it means that kind of all their focus and their concentration isn't on how to output, kind of what the output is. We mentioned before about sort of proofreading their information. So once they've got that information down on a screen, quite often, and I mentioned before about me writing reports, when I speak, it's all unstructured. So it means I can go in there and I can kind of listen to it, proofread it and go, oh yeah, I need to add a full stop here, or that doesn't quite sound right. And I can kind of restructure or reorganize. And it's the same with our students. They get kind of a flood of information and they want to get that information down. By getting that information down, then they can take their time. I mentioned before about my daughter. She can read, she can write. It's that processing speed within it. So taking that information, it's like I mentioned before, it's bimodal reading. So where they see it and hear it at the same time, and the science says it goes in deeper. And I see that with my daughter, particularly with things like maths, for example, or reading comprehensions. If she reads the question, by the time she's got to the end of the passage or the end of the long worded question, I'm not talking, when like the ladder is 3 meters long, blah, blah, blah. She's kind of forgotten what the important information is within it. By seeing it, the words appear, and by hearing it at the same time, it goes in deeper, which means she's got the information, she can move on to what the actual answer is, and how to process that answer rather than sort of how to process the question. She's now focusing on how to process the answer. So yeah, I wasn't originally from an SEN background. It was about getting information out of 18 and 16-year-old boys, in particular. Like I say, I'm now working a dyslexic specialist, and a lot of the information has come from, or the experience has come from COVID, and then learning online. And when students kind of see, I don't know what it's like, sort of our teenagers, my daughter included, or both daughters included, when they watch the TV now, they always watch it with subtitles. It just seems to attract their focus, and it's that kind of reading and hearing at the same time. The information seems to retain the focus, and it seems to go in that bit deeper. I hope that kind of answers the question.
Yeah, great answer. Yeah, I think in the cognitive load perspective also that's true, because according to cognitive load theory, if you have known, if they get information from different channels, like if you see and if you hear, you get both channels. So it gives a great start for the processing. So yeah, I think. And there's another question, I think. Yeah.
Sorry, just build on that before the question. Also about creating environments as well. Because students have to then have an environment where other people are able to dictate and speak out loud, and not be sort of feel as though they're going to be criticized or somebody's going to say something, it kind of generally creates a calmer atmosphere within the classroom. So it's kind of helped my teaching just by creating an atmosphere rather than sort of teaching the technology. By uploading, I say I'm fortunate with all the students got personal devices. By uploading my information onto Teams, once I've given the class discussion, a student can then go back and they can recap or they can read through it at their own time. We all interpret things slightly different, so they might need to read it 2 or 3 times before they're ready to go. Some students like to sort of get going and then sort of, oh, right, okay, now I need to sort of, am I still on track? So being able, that independence can really help as well. And by building up that independence, they take control, they take ownership of their own learning. And again, that sort of grows stature as well as sort of using the tech. It's growing the stature as well. Okay, question?
Yeah, no, I also want to add one more thing. So today we are dealing with these AI systems that, in the chat, rather than typing, I find it useful when you talk to it. So that's speech to text. So whatever comes to your mind, like you said, from so we can just converse with it. So it will be very natural and it will get your context, very clearly. I've seen this in my experience. Just a tip. Okay. Yeah, we will move on to the next question. Do all the features you shared today require live internet to use?
So if you upload Microsoft 365 onto your laptop, you've got limited features when you've not got the Wi-Fi. I mentioned about sort of dictate and read aloud. They work off the cloud. So when we've got exams, for example, we have to disable the internet. So the read aloud, this kind of blue bar across the top that I mentioned before, that feature is put onto our devices, so that works without Wi-Fi or internet connection. So yeah, it might be a case of sort of playing around with your environment.
Okay. Yeah, great, wonderful. So I think we're good to go. If you have any question, please. We have 5 minutes more from David's busier day.
Yeah, no, that's all right. I'm winding down now. It's nice to come. I've put my details, I've put my email, and I've put my LinkedIn as well. So if anybody wants to stay in touch and carry on the conversations, please do. Please do.
I have one question. Can we make organizational chart or cyclic chart easily in that with the use of this software in Microsoft Office? Because if we go manually, that create very difficult to or make an organizational chart or a cyclic chart.
Nusra?
I'm not quite sure. Can you please repeat the question?
Like in Microsoft Office, can we create organizational chart easily with the help of this software?
I know there are some templates and things like PowerPoint. I've not actually looked in Word. Sorry, I'm just clicking on PowerPoint now, but there are some templates, some chart templates.
Like we are showing hierarchy of any organization or any thing. We want to show our students we are creating some organizational chart or we are creating some cyclic chart. We show some cyclic process. So because manually when we are making in Microsoft Office or in our PowerPoint presentation, that needs some more skills, or that is difficult. So with this, is it easy for us? We can easily create that chart with labeling, with tags.
You mean like infographics and all? Is that what you're asking?
Sorry, what you said?
Infographic, like an image, you're saying?
Like an image with showing organizational hierarchy.
Right. Okay, got you. So So you're saying like in PowerPoint presentation or maybe in Word document, we have these little things like flow
Yes.
charts and all. That's what you're saying.
Yes, yes. Yeah.
So
Yeah, I'm looking. I know I've seen them. Shapes. So yeah, do you want me to just jump on? If I share,
mhm.
hello, sorry about that.
Yeah.
I think I clicked the wrong thing. If I disappear again, probably
Yeah.
ban me. Right. If
Mm.
I think I pressed leave instead of share. Definitely at the end of the day. Right. If I go into screen share and I throw up a PowerPoint now. There we go. Let's click up a bar. Right. If I insert and then we've got charts, so you can kind of create bar charts and the likes. But I think what you were talking about was more kind of hierarchical charts. So you've got different kind of shapes and buttons here that you can play around with. I don't know if that's sort of helpful. Yeah. Or again, in your charts, you've got some charts as well. It might be that you're creating different shapes. So from your shapes. So our students use these, for example, when they're creating flow diagrams. So again, they can sort of use the start with the rectangle boxes, and then they've got their action boxes. They've got their arrows. They've got their decision boxes as well. I'm just wondering whether that's the kind of thing. And then you can sort of build these up. Let's just click on. And if I right click, I can edit text. And again, if I go to my Windows and H, test box. And move those around. Don't know if that kind of answers the question. Does that help?
Is that what you're asking?
Yes. Thank you. Thank you.
No, you're welcome. You're welcome.
Okay. Yeah. Okay, great. So I think we are good to go. You don't have any questions, right?
Yes.
Right. So thank you very much, David, for your,
You're welcome.
allocating time from your busy day. I know you're a very busy person and you have something else also. You are still at school and you are contributing to our community. And we will be having him again. We will talk about the reading coach. There are some more other features to be discussed. And also for the participants, thank you very much for joining us. And, we always welcome for, to our future sessions as well. Yeah, stay tuned and please be active in our community. Thank you very much. Thank you, everyone. See you soon. Bye-bye.
See you. Bye. Thank you.
Bye-bye.